Welcome back. To get business perspective on the Reserve Bank appointment, I'm joined by Naren Rao. He's CEO at the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much for joining us, Naren.
Thank you.
Now, a widely anticipated appointment. What's been business reaction?
We certainly welcome the appointment. It's been a stable appointment from our perspective, one that was expected. Further to our concerns around the signals we're sending to the world, Gill Marcus stayed in place during the election, and that was critically important. Although we've had a fairly stable appointment as far as finance minister goes, it was a new appointment, so we needed stability at the Reserve Bank. She saw us through that phase. Now that we've passed the election, she saw time to hand over the reins, and Lesetja Kganyago was a well-received appointment, both from the business perspective, but I believe generally from all perspectives.
Kudos to Ms. Marcus. Now, she's been often described as a steady hand. Do you think Mr. Kganyago will have to do anything different when he takes over the helm?
I think there's a strong base on which he can build. He would obviously have to lead the charge in terms of the new regulatory regime that we're moving to. With recent court cases, he may have to relook at the exchange control framework. That could be part of the mix. He has indicated that he may take a firm hand as far as inflation targeting goes. We hope that he delays such decisions for as long as he can. Certainly the business environment needs whatever boost we can get from the current levels of interest rates or even lower interest rates. It's a very tough environment right now, has been for some time, and certainly all our indices point to that. So higher interest rates, even if it's fractions of a percentage point, will be a difficult burden for us to stomach at this point as business.
Now, I just want to moving away from Mr. Kganyago's appointment, and just to talk about business in general. We've seen that interest rates have risen by about 75 basis points this year, and yet that doesn't seem to have deterred business that much. But on the other hand, we know that business does have cash piles that, for one reason or another, they're not investing. So what do you think business is borrowing some of that money for?
I think those cash piles are overestimated. I don't think they're as pervasive as is commonly thought. There are probably a few large enterprises who are sitting on cash piles, but I must certainly say from the point of view of our members, the majority of businesses, especially on the smaller side, are experiencing very challenging times. And moving from day to day, trying to keep the doors open is the area of focus in recent times. When one looks at those who do have investment stockpiles, cash stockpiles, the key issue there is to prove to their shareholders that there is an opportunity worthy of investment. And often attention is turned to the CEO as the reason why a particular company is not loosening the purse strings. But the issues are broader than the CEO. It often rests with the board, and if it's a significant decision, may even rest with the shareholders. So one must read the failure of certain companies to loosen the purse strings as an indication that they're not seeing investment opportunities that are worthwhile or that meet with the endorsement or approval of the board of shareholders. And that is the unfortunate circumstance that some CEOs find themselves in.
Now, you've alluded to the fact that these are very difficult economic times, but now we hear that Eskom has been given north of 12% in terms of a tariff increase effective 2015 to 2016. What are your members saying about that, and what do you think the ripple effects will be on the economy?
Well, clearly it's coming at a very difficult time for business, at a time where we're struggling to accommodate other inflationary pressures, other cost pressures, and to throw in high electricity costs into the mix is not ideal right now. Once again, from the point of view especially of smaller enterprises, it's not the Eskom tariff that is often a burden to them. It's the tariff that they experience at the municipal level. And we have opened an engagement with the Minister of Cooperative Governance, Minister Godan, and his advisors to this effect, to the extent that our members are experiencing very difficult times, and unfortunately that the experience varies across the country. So it also creates a competitive disjoint where some companies are operating in a higher cost environment than others simply because the electricity tariff is not standardized. And that is the current area of focus and the bigger area of concern. But business is willing to pay these high electricity tariffs if there is continuity and sustainability of supply. And that unfortunately places business in a quandary. We're paying these higher cost levels and we're not seeing a continuity or stability of supply. And even when supply is not continuous, it's unstable. We're not certain when the power is going to go off and when it's going to come back on. So you're not certain when to shut your doors and when to reopen. So it's a very difficult circumstance all around when one looks at infrastructure, its supply, its continuity, and its costs. And these are the challenges that we hope to some extent will be resolved or addressed at least by Minister Goran's Back to Basics program. And we hope that within that program, a key area of engagement would be the business partners that reside within a particular municipal area. In other words, our local chambers.
And very quickly, Naren, some different messages coming from different quarters of the ANC around ETolls. How does business feel about that?
Well, we've recently conducted a large-scale survey around ETolls, 6,500 respondents, and the reason we had such a high volume of responses is because we went beyond our membership. And this was one of the requests that came out of the recent Gauteng hearings around ETolls. Following our presentation, we were asked to investigate further. Unfortunately, the outcome of that survey was quite concerning. More than 80% of the respondents indicated that the service they received under EToll administration was very poor. It pointed to problems related to incorrect billing, problems relating to those who were on the billing system as opposed to the tag system, not receiving their bills on time, poor service at the call centers, and a range of issues that have to do with administration. If we want to encourage South African citizens to support the EToll system, we do need to fix our service delivery side, our back office side, and that would perhaps to some extent overcome the reticence that we're experiencing right now. But granted, I leave it to the politicians to sort out the challenge in terms of the provincial government perspective versus the national government perspective. But I hope that the final outcome is in accordance with the wishes of citizens, all of which have placed those powers that be into the office that they hold.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you very much. That was Naren Rao, he's CEO at SABC.